Hello, TCA students. I'm back again with some more notes for you today. Today we're going to be talking about some different ways of saying the same thing. You know that in life we often say things, the same thing, in different ways. For example, if I'm talking about tomorrow, I could say April 4th, or I could say tomorrow, or I could say mañana. Different ways of saying the same thing. As I look at this set of numbers that are marked on this graph, I know it's all the numbers between 1 and 9, where 1 is not included, but 9 is included. There's three ways of saying this in mathematic notation. The first one is the one you're used to, algebraic notation, where you use symbols and variables. So in example 1, I would write this, all the numbers between 1 and 9. The x represents all the numbers. 1 and 9 are the endpoints. But 1 is not included because it has the open circle. So I'm just going to put the less than, no equals under it. The 9 is included in the set. So I'm going to put less than or equal to. This is the way you're used to writing that set of numbers. A second way of doing that is called set notation. It includes squiggly brackets, as well as the variable, a line, and algebraic notation. It's a lot like the algebraic notation. We're just going to add a couple of little features. So first we start with the squiggly bracket and the variable x. Then we draw a vertical line like this. The way we would say this is all the values of x such that. The line means such that. Then we just write everything we wrote in the algebraic notation. 1 less than x less than or equal to 9. And we close our squiggly bracket. Notice is very much like the algebraic notation, just adding a little bit of fancy stuff around it. The one I really want us to focus on is the interval notation. The big things to notice in a set of numbers on a number line are what are the endpoints and do you include the endpoints or not in the set. So as we look at interval notation, it includes the endpoints separated by a comma. If the endpoint is not included, we use parentheses. If the endpoint is included, we use brackets. So in the example above, the endpoints were 1 and 9. So I'm going to write 1, 9. Then I have to decide, do I use a bracket or a parenthesis? The 1 was not included in the set, so I'm going to use a parenthesis by the 1. The 9 is included in the set, so I'm going to use a bracket by the 9. Don't confuse this with an ordered pair. We are using this to show a whole set of numbers between 1 and 9, where 1 is not included but 9 is. So here's just a summary of all of that. If you think about a set of numbers between A and B, where A and B are both included in the set, we could write it in the inequality notation with A less than or equal to X less than or equal to B. We could write it in the set notation where we just added the fancy stuff, the squiggly lines, squiggly brackets, the X, and that vertical line. Interval notation, we want all the numbers between A and B. A and B are the endpoints. In this case, both A and B are included in the set, so we use brackets on both ends. In the second example, we want the set of numbers that are larger than A. A is not included in the set. So we know how to write that in inequality notation, x greater than a. In set notation, we still have the x greater than a, but we just added the squiggly brackets, the x, and the vertical line. The set of all numbers x such that x is greater than a. The interval notation is kind of interesting when you do not have an endpoint. So in this set, we know a is an endpoint, but it just keeps going on forever, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, all the way up to infinity. It never stops. We look at the two endpoints. A is the smallest it's going to get, but it's never going to touch the a, so we use the parenthesis. As the numbers get bigger and bigger, they're approaching positive infinity, so we put that in as our other endpoint. However, it's never going to reach infinity, so again, we use parentheses. And the third example is the set of numbers less than or equal to a. A is included in the set this time, so we write the equal sign under the less than when we do our inequality notation. For set notation, we start with the squiggly bracket and the x and the vertical line, then write the x less than or equal to a. This is the set of all numbers x such that x is less than or equal to a. And then the interval notation. This time, on the left, the boundary is negative infinity. It keeps on approaching negative infinity, but it's never going to touch it, so we have that parenthesis on that side. It goes all the way up to a and stops there, and a is included, so on the right side, we have the bracket. Let's look at example 2. We see a set of numbers that are less than 4. 4 is not included. So the inequality, x less than 4. For the set notation, we're still going to have that x less than 4, but we're first going to start with the squiggly bracket, x, vertical line. Then we write the x less than 4 and close the squiggly bracket. All the numbers x such that x is less than 4. Let's look at the interval notation. On the left side, it approaches negative infinity. Then I write the comma. On the right side, the boundary is at 4. It does not include 4, so I'm going to use the parenthesis. It does not include negative infinity because it can't ever get there. It can't reach it, so I'm going to use the parenthesis there. There are 4 examples for you to practice. I'm going to do just a couple of them for you. On number 1, I'll show you the set notation. I'm going to want this squiggly bracket, x, vertical line. Now I describe my set of x's. I want anything between -3 and 2. So -3 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 2. Notice I put the equals on there because I have the solid dots at the -3 and the 2. You can finish the rest of number 1 and 2. Let's look at 3. I'll do the interval notation on number 3. On the left side, the boundary is negative infinity. It's never going to actually touch negative infinity, so I'm going to put the parenthesis, comma. On the right side, the boundary is at 2. It does include 2 in the set, so I'm going to put the bracket on that side. So I want you to finish the rest of those as your assignment today and turn in your notes when you're done. Hope you have a great day.